Public service announcement. The Qi35 is banging and Taylormade are back. Let me get to the top of my perch. This right here I have in my hand is the Qi10. If you own one of these, you shouldn't for much longer. Welcome back to the Golf Supply, everyone. This is the review of the new Taylormade Qi35 driver. And as you've just seen from the intro there, this thing is a joke. If you're an American watcher and you don't understand British slang, a joke means good. Now, without me even hitting a golf ball, Taylormade have won. This thing here reminds me of old school Taylormade designing when they're just so much better looking than everything else on the market, and that is what they've done with the Qi35. I've been harsh on Taylormade over the last, I would say, 4 releases. The Stealth 2, and the Qi10, I suppose. All of them wasn't the best looking driver for me, wasn't the best performing driver for me, and that's out of sorts for Taylormade. When you think Taylormade, you think drivers, you think woods. They are top of the pile. And that is why I've sat on the top of my perch, because without even hitting a golf ball, I want one of these drivers, and that's what Taylormade is all about. But we are gonna hit these drivers. We are gonna get some data, well, we have got some data. We'll get to that later on in the video. And we're gonna talk about tech and what's new in these clubs. I'm excited to hit them. You should be excited to watch. Let's get into it. I mean, as well, in comparison to the Qi10, is it even close? With the overall package, how good this looks compared to that. The Qi10 obviously had all of the blue accents, had like the silvery chromy finish, a blue carbon face. It was a little bit mismatched, pick and mixy. When you were 5 years old, you used to pop down to Woolworths and get a penny mix, you know, and just fill up the bag with like 20 pounds worth and say you was only spending £2. That is the Qi10. The Qi35 is a much more sophisticated system. It's M&S, it's Marks and Spencer's. That is the way that I would describe the comparability between these two clubs. Just want to hit one straight down the middle. And that is just an unreal start. Right off the bat, everyone's going to want to know, is the Qi10 Max still 10K? The answer to that question is yes. You can see by the little graphic down in that corner, we still have 10K forgiveness in the Qi35 Max. The second question is, does it still have Taylormade signature carbon face? The answer to that question is yes. But does it feel like Taylormade's signature carbon face? The answer to that question, not so much. And I suppose the last question, before we start talking about what's new in these clubs and the 3 models on offer, is that signature carbon face from Taylormade still a stupid colour, i.e. blue or red? Well, the answer to that question, thankfully, is no. Before we move any further into this review of the new Taylormade Qi35, you can go and pick these clubs up yourself on www.scottsdale.co.uk. Go grab yourself one of these if you fancy it after watching this review. Now, Taylormade Qi35, we have the same 3 offerings that we had in the previous model, the Qi10. We have the Qi35 Max, which is 10K. That is the maximum forgiveness club. We have the Qi35 Standard, and we have the Qi35 LS. The Qi35 LS is in for a shout of the best looking golf club, no banter, the best looking driver ever to be made. I think that thing looks absolutely incredible. The shape of it, the design of it, the little subtle carves and edges to it. I mean, it is just a beautiful golf club. Will I be hitting it in this review? Once. Did I hit it over at the simulator to get some data for you guys? Yes. It wouldn't be going in my bag. I don't think it's going to be going into many of your bags either. But bloody hell does it look good. So to give you a bit more of a breakdown of what 3 heads are and exactly what they are giving you, the Max being the 10K MOI is the most forgiving. It is a 460cc head, 34 gram tungsten weight in the rear of it, again, just to move that back, just to help get the ball up in the air. And it has a slight draw bias. That is just something to be aware of on the Max 10K Qi35. It does have a little bit of a draw bias. You move on to the standard version of the Qi35, again 460cc head. It's got a slightly smaller footprint behind the golf ball in compared to the Qi35 Max. It has two movable CG weights at the front and back of the standard. And with those movable weights, it has less of a bias towards a certain shape and more aimed at being able to move the club around with the adjustability to try and pick and create a shape which is more preferred to yourself. Then you move into the absolute monster, the LS. This 460cc head still, but it does not look anywhere near the size as the standard and the Max. 3 movable weights on this one in comparison to the 2 on the standard and the 1 on the Max. Lefties will be pleased to know that all 3 versions come in left-handed, but only the Max and the standard come in the lofts 9 degrees, 10.5 and 12 degrees. When you move into the LS, if you're an absolute flusher out there and you're putting this in your golf bag, this will only be available in 8 degrees, 9 degrees and 10.5. But then again, I don't really see many people getting fit into a 12 degree LS head. We're on a drivable par 4 here, and I'm going to hit all 3 heads so you can see the difference in flight because it is noticeable, and then we'll jump into the tech of these clubs. And I'm going to begin with the Max. Behind the golf ball, this thing looks so forgiving. It is so deep from top to bottom. It's a big head. It is a big footprint on this, but it just inspires confidence. And I'll get onto the face in a little bit, but behind the ball, that just sits perfect to me. Sits quite square to neutral. It's not toe in or open. That just suits my little eye. And that is ripped. So on the topic of this face then, in all of the previous models, in the Stealth 2 and the Qi10, I didn't think it looked part of the golf club. But Taylormade with this new infinity crown in this so nice, it's such a nice grey finish this, complemented on the bottom with the exact same grey with all of these little accents, tiny, tiny hints of mint green in there. Oh, that looks part of the golf club now. I think it's taken them 3 iterations, this being the 4th, to finally get there, but this looks like one complete package to me, whereas the Qi10 and both Stealths didn't. It looked like different components put together. This is the finished article. This is the final boss, as they would say. Because if you've watched our Callaway Elite review, if you haven't, the little pop-up banner will come up there for you to watch it. Unfortunately for Callaway, I gave the Elite the award of worst looks for the drivers brought out in 2025. And it was a big fall from them because I thought that AI Smoke was the best looking club of 2024 and now the worst looking club in 2025. The Qi35, I've harped on about it. You get the point now. I know you get the point. This will not be beaten for some time. This looks incredible. Onto the standard, footprint slightly smaller behind the golf ball, not by much, than what we see in the Max. Same shape, same looks. See if we can get the same result. Up the right, but it'll be good. And doesn't feel like it's hard work to hit at all, really, which is nice. The Max is definitely easier to hit with the bigger footprint. But if you're someone who isn't looking for a draw bias, something a little bit more neutral, and you want the adjustability that comes in the standard version, which you lose in the Max, then you're really not going to struggle to hit this thing. You'll get dialed in with this pretty quickly, I guarantee. Now for a laugh, let's hit the 9 degree LS. 9 degree, not enough loft for me, not enough spin for me, not enough nothing for me. Let's see how it goes. Okay, with it being a 460cc head as well, it does look smaller. It's a much more compact final product. I'm really gonna have to launch this one, boys. Oh, I've done well. Up the right, similar to the standard, but just have a look at that. That is an absolute piss take of a golf club. Look at that. Oh, the only thing I don't like about the Qi35 is this little bit on the neck here sort of blends into the bottom of the golf club in that graphite-y chrome finish they've done, and it kind of just leaks into the top where the hosel meets the crown. That is the only thing, literally the only thing I do not like about the design on this club. Sounds pure compared to the Qi10. So obviously I've sung to the high heavens about just how great this club looks. But what's new on the technology side? Well, this is where some of you might be a little bit disappointed, and then again, some of you might not. because there isn't really that much new on the Qi35 to what you've already had in the Qi10. Now, they're onto their 4th version of carbon twist face, and as I've alluded to earlier in this video, it definitely sounds better off the face. You've definitely got a bit more of a traditional feel, rather than what I could only describe as that really muted, dull carbon experience we definitely had in the Stealth and the Stealth 2. It got a little bit better in the Qi10, but it has improved once again on the Qi35. They've got their through speed pocket, which is slightly changed in the design on the bottom of the club. Does look a little bit cleaner. And the infinity crown, so that's the carbon crown that goes all the way, wraps around into the face. Apart from that, you've got a multi-material construction, which we had already with aluminium, carbon, titanium, and that's really it. But I suppose, is that a good thing? Do we need golf clubs to change drastically every single year? They had the Qi10, which is a good product. They've improved the looks of it, which I think most manufacturers haven't done this year. I don't think necessarily you'll see a massive performance improvement. It feels, and the data that you'll see in a minute when we went over to the Trackman simulator, is very, very, very similar to what I saw in my Qi10, and I gamed that club for the whole year. But it looks better, it sounds better, it performs just as well. That's a win for me. In my books, I think that's a win. Right boys, come down to Golf 1, local simulator down in Southend. If you're ever around the area, come down here. They've got Trackman bays, and I want to put these Qi35s through their paces. I've set up the range at 300 yards with a 30-yard wide fairway, which is maybe, I don't know, it might be a little bit on the forgiving side, but we're going to start with the max this time, and we're going to work our way up. So we're going to go max, standard, then LS. Yardages for me, standard, 280 carry, 300 total, would be around about average, I would say. I'm warm, I've hit balls already in another club review, so let's get straight into it. Starting off with the Qi35 Max first. .280 carry, 305 total. That is exactly my numbers. Numbers are bang on. 284 average carry, 307 yards average total. Pretty good to be fair. I have put on this one, I have put my own shaft in it, the Ventus TR 6X. Works really well off of off-centered hits. I'll sort of touch on it a little bit further onto this video, but it definitely feels and sounds much better. Not much better, that's wrong, but better than the Qi10. Let's go on to the standard. Rat dog. Definitely longer. Longer and a little bit faster, I would say. Averaging at 303 yards in total carry and 310 yards in total distance, which is about 10 yards up on what my Qi10 would be and what the Max was. One thing to note about this Qi35 is I would definitely say it has a slight draw bias. I was keeping an eye on my strike, the impact video on the Trackman, and my path wasn't excessively from the inside on many of them, but I was starting to see a little bit more draw than what I would usually see in my current setup. So just something to bear in mind. I would say it edges towards a draw bias, but longer. The standard is longer than the Max, and I wouldn't actually say it was any harder to hit. So then why would you? But the Max is 10K and the standard isn't, but I didn't notice it. Maybe the Max was a little bit easier to hit. Let's go into the LS. Let's see if this could be an absolute low spin bomb monster, this, couldn't it? I'm actually a little bit excited to hit it. Let's go. .328 straight off the bat. Oh. No, I'm having to try way too hard with it. When you catch it, don't get me wrong, the first ball I think went out there like 330. Absolute bomb. The head is noticeably smaller. The footprint is noticeably smaller. The spin is noticeably less. When I off-centered hit a couple of them, that was getting like 900 spin. So you're seeing less and less people on tour using these boys. Like, you're not gonna see many people gaming this. Just, I don't see the point. Good numbers there from the Qi35, to be fair. The standard and the max anyway. That can go in the bin. You could see there was a couple of sneaky long ones in there, especially with the LS when you absolutely nutted it. I won't be going anywhere near that golf club. I feel like I can stand over the ball with this max version, with it retaining the 10K MOI, and be confident that I'm going to hit a lot of fairways with it, even when, point in case, I don't hit it right out the middle of the face. And the standard shares that very similar forgiveness, to be honest, but I like it. I mean, you don't get much better than that, ladies and gentlemen. That is perfect. And hopefully you can hear it. Hopefully you can hear that the strike's starting to sound more like a driver. And no, we probably shouldn't be saying that about one of the biggest, if not the biggest club manufacturer, that for the last few years, their club sounded like crap, but it doesn't anymore. And it's a joy to hit. I've absolutely loved it. I've given them stick. I haven't liked their woods for the last 3 seasons, but I do really, really like the Qi35. Go out and test it yourself. Head over to Scottsdale. You can buy this right now. It is now available for pre-order. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I hope you're enjoying these reviews. If you haven't checked out our Callaway Elite and our Ping G440 review, that actually won't be out for another week or so, but make sure you give that a watch as well. On to the next. Hopefully it can help you find some more fairways, hit it a little bit longer. La bosh!